Stu, perhaps the most crucial interview in These Little Ones is the interview that we managed to secure with an anonymous survivor of ritual satanic child abuse. So heavy. Our anonymous survivor described how we all have an organized enemy, an enemy that actively plots the abduction and downfall of our own children. Children presenting other children for sacrifice. She described a satanic calendar with 4 grand climaxes each year. A year requiring a human sacrifice. She described 37 satanic covens existing just in one small portion of Georgia alone. 37 covens times 4 grand climaxes a year means 148 sacrifices of women or children every year. Just in an area covering 1/6 of Georgia. Many of the sacrifice victims, she said, came from foster care. She described children being tortured hideously. She described multiple generations of abuse survivors, children kept alive just so they could be forcibly impregnated to give birth to additional children for sacrifice. Breeders, she called them. She suggested that the majority of the government either ignores what's happening or actively assists in it. But along with all of this, perhaps the most chilling part is when we asked who exactly is involved in all of this, and she simply responded, "Do you want me to die?" But despite our sources' well-justified sense of terror, we were able to learn a lot. And a lot of it couldn't go into the movie. Horrifying stories about the specific abuse that she and her sister suffered as little children, 6-year-old little girls. We have that footage right here, and we're ready to show it to you. To present that footage, we're joined by These Little Ones creators, Nicholas Stumphauser and Matthew Scow. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Stu.
This was by far and away the most shocking thing that I think I have ever seen. And you sat down with her for nearly 90 minutes. Take us through it.
Yeah, we went up to Georgia to Warrior Bride Ministries, and they were gracious enough to host us. We were trying to be as reverent as possible, but still bring to the world an understanding that basically nobody gets to see this. Nobody talks to SRA victims. And she had incredible recall. She was a very intelligent person. And the things that Matt and I heard were, I don't know, have you ever heard anything even close to that?
I mean, you can see it in the film. At one point, I look over at Nick and I'm like, did you just hear that?
Yeah.
And I have to stay composed, and while we're interviewing whoever it is, but hearing that firsthand, man, it hit the gut, man. It was really hard to hear. And I think we can just share one of those clips right now of one of the most horrific things I've ever heard live from someone who told me was when her and her sister were brought to 2 empty graves, pushed in, dirt was put on top, and they came back to see which one survived. I'll just let her tell the story. She'll do it better than I do.
You know how my twin sister died? They buried both of us, and I came out, which means I'm the strongest. And you had to be the strongest. You had to be the strongest to get the training, to get the power that you wanted. So yeah, you absolutely get things.
When did that happen with your sister?
We were 6.
You were 6. Can you walk me through that? Is that too much?
It's not really much to say, other than we both went in and I came out.
Did they walk you to a hole? And then...
And I remember standing on the edge of it and looking at her, because we were twins, and twins are supposed to have more power than others, And I had on a white dress. It's funny because sometimes I can still see, looking at my bare feet on the edge of the dirt, and the dirt crumbling and taking a step back, even though I knew I was getting in that hole anyhow, but I was trying not to have the earth crumble beneath my feet. And I remember looking over at her and her taking my hand, and we had no idea what was going to happen. I thought I was just going to die. I didn't think they were coming back for me.
And they put you in the hole and they
Covered it with it.
I mean, I don't. How do you move on in life after being in that situation as a 6-year-old little girl in a white dress standing there at a hole that you are supposed to die in?
Well, maybe to tell the story that she told, maybe God spared her life so she could share this atrocity with the world. People don't believe it until maybe they hear it from someone who lived it.
And Stu, in 1988, there was a 60 Minutes interview that Matt found, and stories like this are so unbelievable that you need multiple sometimes to really appreciate it. And one of the experts in this 60 Minutes interview was describing that this sort of practice is very common to
He said
traumatized children.
21.
21 in the 2 years that they were working together. And they put children in small confined spaces and terrorizing circumstances. So what this survivor describes is actually common. It's pretty on brand.
We're talking about the number of kids that have been through this and that continue to go through this. The biblical archaeologist that you talked to said it perfectly when he said, look, this is not anything new. A lot of actually the guests that you interviewed said the same thing. Diego Rodriguez said this is not new. But the biblical archaeologist, when he said, like, why would we be naive enough to believe that this isn't still occurring today? And she describes, this satanic ritual abuse survivor describes these 4 climaxes. And when you start processing the number of innocent children that have gone through this, it's insane. She describes some of this. Look.
Evidence would point to the fact that the governing body would be the Illuminati. Every September, Satan himself is supposed to appear at their castle to give orders that are then dispersed to every other organization across the country, across the world. That's where we get this September marriage to the beast ceremony. They get the directions, they disperse it to everyone under them on a specific day, normally between the 6th and the 8th of September, and then they carry out agenda from there. But that's what all evidence points to.
Telling me Satan appears in a castle?
The mother of darkness.
With the mothers of darkness, that's the women of the Illuminati from the marriage of the beast ceremony.
These numbers are staggering. At one point in the film, we talk about, with Brandy Brassel, the number of homes in a neighborhood as compared to how often something like this is actually occurring. This is happening in people's neighborhoods.
Yeah, and if you recall, Teresa, the 15-year-old from the 60 Minutes interview, she says that where her abuse took place was in a castle. It seems that at a concentration of wealth and power, you're going to have people who are subservient.
Isn't that what we're talking about too? The elites are
Yes.
practicing. Tony Podesta, a mega donor for the DNC, is portraying these disgusting pieces of art depicting kids in a state of death and torture. Death and torture are on his wall, and they have social parties around these things.
Pizza parties.
They eat off of cadavers like Maria Abramovich and Lady Gaga, feasting off a cadaver. She's probably like a mannequin, or maybe she is real. Who knows? We weren't there. This is a real thing that we just write off.
So can we expect, as we approach these 4 grand climaxes, these holidays, if you will, should we be paying attention to how many kids are going missing at that time?
Look, when I look at the comments and the overwhelming support of this film, and then a few people want to know more, and why don't you name the names? And we are not the district attorneys here. We are filmmakers. What we need to do is bring light to this, where people who might not believe this is real actually take a second look and say, oh my Lord, this is so real. Now it's up to people in offices who have the power to arrest people, investigate, to do their job. We've done our job. You do your job, Daily Stew. Now let's let law enforcement, governing bodies do their job. This is an actual epidemic, pandemic, whatever you call it. This is a real thing that's happening around the world, and we've been too quiet too long. And Jesus warned us what happens when we let these abuse happen to these little ones. We all have a millstone around our neck.
And what did you say, Stu? Are we the crazy ones, or are we just paying attention? Well, we've just made everybody extremely culpable because we shared a bunch of knowledge. We just gave 56 minutes of perspective and awareness that people don't have yet. And you asked, are we crazy, or are you paying attention? So now everybody who's watched this film needs to pay attention. When you go to the Super Bowl, look at the statistics around these 4 grand climaxes. Start paying attention. We've showed so many examples of kids just getting pulled right out in the open. And so before somebody picks up the phone and calls CPS or tries to get the police involved in something, in a family matter, in a civil matter like this, just be very cognizant.
Look what we showed with Cyrus. We showed police officers telling the mother, no, you can ride with an ambulance, and then immediately saying she's going to jail. She's not. Like, these people are involved in some way, and we have to hold them accountable. Okay.
It was so disgusting. It was disgusting.
Yes. The viewer, what can you do at home? You have an obligation to share this to somebody. One person to one person. That's how movements start. Get active.
The idea of the cops doing what they did, we don't want her to know what hospital baby Cyrus is going to. We don't want her to know.
Milking the child. Yeah. Where's the kid going to eat? It's crazy, man.
Every time I watch this film, I see something new, or it hits me in a different way. And a lot of the comments that I see on the streams on Rumble say the same thing. I've watched this multiple times. I've had personal acquaintances, friends, relatives reach out and say, I just watched it 3 times. You kind of have to. You really have to be able to take in everything that is in this film and really process it if you can. And it hits me in a different way every time. Anger, righteous indignation, sadness, grieving, disbelief.
All of it. And the thing with Cappy, the Cappy story was important because this was a person who did not want to do this.
Yeah.
Felt compelled to do it by what he saw. Just like if you have that opportunity, you must do it. And he risked it all. We all have a part to play.
It was the first time that Diego Rodriguez had seen the footage of when we were in his home.
Man.
That just, I mean, man, it's not even, and it's not like I go, wow, I'm really proud of this. It's not that goosebump feeling. It is
amazement of God.
It's like a huge anvil being lifted off of your shoulders. It's like a sigh of relief. This is now there. This is now there. And like you said, the people who have the biggest obligation here, number one, yes, you're right. Everybody has an obligation to share this. People in enforcement wings, if there are any real men left among us, now need to pick up where this leaves off and go and find and investigate and lock up and prosecute the people who are doing this to our kids. In a neighborhood of roughly 250 homes, 14 of them are experiencing this thing that you just saw. When you drive down the street and look in the windows as you're going by and see the child in the window as depicted in the film, this is real. This isn't some fictional
drama.
No. And what we're not trying to do, Stu, what we're not trying to do is make everybody paranoid.
No.
Or just live in a state of, oh my God, none of that. It's just a cognizance, okay? And everybody should have paid attention when WikiLeaks came out. When the Secretary of State brings up Moloch, not in a joking way. Full stop. Hang on a second. What's this country running on?
Yeah. And when Trump said to lock her up, we need to hold him accountable. Like these people, they're in so much power. They were so brazen with it for so long that they can feel they could do anything. Light always crushes the darkness, and we will not beat this. We're governed by principalities, and we need Jesus Christ to fight this battle, and we need to do our part. Whatever he puts in your heart to do, you must do. Don't deny him.
Nicholas Stumphauser, Matthew Scow, thank you so much for everything that you've done here. I appreciate you being here today as well. God bless you.
Thanks,
Thanks,
bud.
Stu.